Dr. DeClute and Bioforce had hands on Cosmos as they worked. Olympian and Eclipse smashed new waves of bots further from the healers. She and Glimmer destroyed anything that came up from the ground. Wave saturated the ground with water that made the bots climb from the mud slowly. Ranger kept a solid illusion around the healers for security. "How did you have time to get costumes on?" Connors asked. He knew the attack had only commenced a couple of minutes ago. "We had ours on," Darkspeed said. "I got second teams from the rubble. It didn't take long." "IQ's trapped in Lab 7. He wasn't in the dorm," Virtuoso blurted. "Villains!" Ion said as he flew back by the others. "They're coming from the south, past the hotel." Olympian and Eclipse turned and headed south. The bot waves seemed less now. "How long before you can stop and move him?" Connors asked Dr. DeClute, who was still in her nightgown. "I guess we could now," Bioforce said. "Good. Virtuoso, get him to London." There was a popping sound, and then Virtuoso fell forward with a hole through the side of her chest. No one saw what happened, but Darkspeed was quick enough to catch her as she fell. "Jilly?" Darkspeed said. "Wave, heal her," Connor said. "Ranger, evacuate everyone to the dugout. When Virtuoso is up, you get everyone out of here." "What about me?" Darkspeed asked. "Save IQ." Connors flew to where the two hitters had gone off by themselves. He saw Olympian and Eclipse battling with dozens of villains in their bot army. They were quickly laying waste to the force in front of them. "These guys are just the fodder. Where's the real threat?" Connors thought as he looked around. Connors landed and helped the two hitters finish off the force in front of them. The broken bodies of the villains that lay at their feet begged for mercy. Connors bent down to question one of them. A popping sound made Connors flinch as he was shot in the face. He looked up to see a second wave of villains approaching. These ones were carrying black rifles and moving as a unit. They started to fire at all three of them. Eclipse fell backwards as several 1-inch diameter holes were punched through the giant's body by black streaks of energy. Olympian fell to one knee as a black beam cut through his armor and his thigh. The weapon's fire had no effect on Connors. "Black ball guns! Get Eclipse to the dugout," Connors said to Olympian. Connors stepped forward and extended both hands out like he was hugging something wide in front of him. The villains kept firing at all three of them, but the black streaks bent and only hit Connors. Olympian looked at Connors, who was doing something to pull all the fire from all directions into himself. Olympian ignored the pain in his leg and grabbed his big friend. Both hitters were airborne and heading quickly to the dugout. Near the dugout, the bots had been destroyed and it seemed calm. "What's going on out there?" Ranger asked. "The villains have some kind of super weapon. It punched right through my omnium armor and me," Olympian said as he sat down outside the dugout. Dr. DeClute jumped at Eclipse to heal him. Bioforce placed her hands on Olympian, and he instantly felt the pain subside. Wave was trying to get Virtuoso back up to full strength. Glimmer was helping Cosmos stand. "What kind of weapon was it?" she asked as she kept an eye out. "It was some kind of black beam that made a popping sound when it went by. Connors called it a black ball gun," Olympian said. Dr. DeClute shot straight up. "We need to get everyone out of here, now!" "Virtuoso won't be up to it for at least another minute," Wave said. "Why? What kind of weapon is that?" she asked. "It's an energy weapon that was designed to kill Omni," Dr. DeClute said in fear. Darkspeed arrived with a badly hurt IQ. "He needs a healer." Olympian was now back on his feet from his leg wound. "I'm going back to help Connors." "No, you're not. He wanted us to get to London as soon as Virtuoso was up," Darkspeed said. "I can fly to London, and she's not up yet," Olympian said as he took off toward the south and the fighting. More waves of bots and villains carrying black rifles were firing at Connors. Some were destroyed and some still standing. As Olympian came close, he noticed something he'd been taught in training. Connors was waiting for them all to get closer to him. Olympian didn't want to disrupt whatever he was doing, so he landed quietly behind him. Connors had taken a wide stance as he stood still. His shoes twisted and gripped the ground beneath him. He bowed his head and clenched his fists. Olympian watched this from behind and recognized it was the gunfighter move Cosmos used. Olympian walked closer to the side of Connors to see what he was doing. Connors opened his fist and energy balls cracked in his palms. His head raised and his eyes opened. Connors' eyes were engulfed by a dark blue crackling energy. Olympian's eyes went wide and his mind reeled. "Omni?" Connors turned to look at his young hitter. "Get everyone out of here!" Olympian's teeth chattered from the volume that came from his effortless voice. Connors rose into the air and energy started to crackle around him. Olympian had to break his attention away to get back to the others. He quickly landed next to the others. Connors has the Omni power. He's using it against the villains. I think he is Omni, Olympian blurted. What? Darkspeed said as he blinked out to see it for himself. Connors unleashed energy that scorched the earth and killed everyone in front of him except 2 villains, each with a rifle. Connors was quickly on them. He tore one rifle from the hands of a villain and hurled it to the side. The second rifle was shattered as Connors slapped it into the villain holding it, knocking him to the ground. Where did you get these weapons? Connors asked loud enough for anyone within a mile to hear. Darkspeed was hit in the chest with a force that knocked him back several hundred feet. He felt his ribs healing as he stood. Something different then caught his eye. Connors and the villain looked like they weren't moving. A giant sphere of energy erupted in front of him. It was centered on Connors. Darkspeed looked at the ball of energy that must have been 500 feet in diameter turn a pale white. The sphere disappeared and left a vacuum in its place that made a loud crack as air rushed to fill the void. Where's Connors? Darkspeed thought. In front of him was a perfect half circle missing from the ground. Darkspeed quickly blinked back to the others. Where's Connors? She asked as she faced Darkspeed. He's gone, a voice said from behind Darkspeed. Darkspeed moved to see the person who was behind him. It was a man in a white costume with gold trim and a golden arm. He stood a good 60 feet back from the Alphas. Vector! Dr. DeClute said the name like it was poison in her mouth. Nice to see you too, Mercy, Vector said. Behind Vector, several other villains in costume began gathering. These were not the same ones that were fighting earlier. The costumes on these ones were not uniforms. What do you want? Dr. DeClute asked. Everything. But today, I'll just take the little Omni, Vector said. Darkspeed looked behind him to see Cosmos slumped to the ground. What's happened to him? Glimmer pulled a dart from his neck. I think he's been drugged again. Of course he's been drugged again. I didn't plan on fighting 2 Omnis today, just one. Now hand him over. You're not taking anyone, Olympian said as he stepped forward. Vector moved quickly and pointed one finger from the hand on his golden arm at Olympian. Darkspeed knew something bad was about to happen to Olympian and rushed to give him a shove. A black beam that was meant for his heart ended up striking Olympian through the side of the chest. You are quick. A chip off the old block, Vector said. What? Darkspeed asked. Wave was closest to the fallen Olympian and started to lay hands on him. Vector then shot Wave through the stomach for trying to heal Olympian. She turned briefly to water and back. Her wound was gone. Stop this! Dr. DeClute said as she stepped in front of the other Alphas. Give me the Omni and I'll go without a fight, Vector said. Cosmos isn't wearing his armor and he's vulnerable. That's why he hasn't attacked in force. He's worried about damaging his prize. If he gets Cosmos, he'll just attack anyway, IQ said. You're the one with the 7 intelligence, Vector said to IQ. Vector moved fast like Darkspeed and shot IQ directly through the forehead. Bioforce screamed and jumped to try and catch the downed Alpha. No one is smarter than me, Vector said. You won't be able to heal him from that, sweetie, he said to Bioforce. IQ must have been right, Darkspeed thought. Darkspeed moved back to pick up Cosmos at top speed. Vector raised his hand to fire at Darkspeed but was unsure of hitting Cosmos and paused. Darkspeed now knew what to do. He moved back and forth between the others with Cosmos fast. Darkness then covered the whole group. Everyone in the dugout, Darkspeed said. Vector jumped into the darkness and grabbed the person closest to him. Vector pulled Dr. DeClute back out of the darkness. Vector's villains then started to move forward. Don't go in there blind. You'll kill the Omni, Vector said. The Alphas took stock of who had made it into the dugout and who didn't. Bioforce was trying desperately to fix IQ's head wound. Wave started to work on Olympian. Give me the Omni or the good doctor dies, Vector yelled into the dugout. How do we know that you'll let us go? Darkspeed yelled back. He then leaned over to the others and said, Virtuoso, are you ready to start teleporting the others? I am, Virtuoso said to him. I know you're just buying time to start moving your people out, son. You leave and she dies, Vector said loudly. Find out how he's getting his intel, Darkspeed said to Virtuoso. He then yelled back, I'm not your son. Don't call me that. Where do you think you got your speed from? Omni? No, you're my flesh and blood, all right, Vector said.